Hello, guys. Um, it's Banlist season, and I would also like to give a couple of opinions on what could happen, in my opinion. I'm gonna go from unlims to banned because probably you know all the banned stuff. Though I would like to surprise you guys too with a couple of theories that I made. This list is probably unlikely to happen, first of all, because as much as you would uh, doubt that it is the case, Konami likes to favor the public's most wanted bands and stuff. Specifically, I think if the public wants it enough, Benton could be limited. But in my opinion, that's not the wisest choice. Uh, But as said, this is like a list that could be possible. It would change minor things in the meta. It would definitely bring down the power of the most oppressive decks. So, anyways, let's get into it. Unlimited, uh, Dynamite Knight, because Draco is scary if it comes to splashing it with Eldritch, but to be honest, Dynamite Knight is not the most not the strongest card, and Draco loves to see a lot of its engine, while also seeing a lot of draw cards, etc., etc. And if you play Draco, you can't play Prosperity, you can't play you can play Extravagance, but it's not as good. And you can't play Desires with Eldritch. So, anyways, Dynamite Knight to 3, it won't do too much. It just increases the consistency of seeing this card. Tempest Dragon, Ruler of Storms to 3. A lot of people are requesting another Dragon Ruler to come back, but I find it wiser to bring one Dragon Ruler to 3, specifically Tempest. First of all, because they're trying to sell the Armed Dragon Thunder stuff, and they may also want to sell the Dragoonity support that is coming in Goats from the Past. And this card is an excellent search tool when it comes to supporting Dragoonity, and it's also a grind game tool, and having 3 of this in Dragoonity would be amazing. Destrudo, the Lost Dragon's Fission. This card, of course, is a Hulk enabler, but there are so many Hulk enablers, honestly, that it wouldn't matter to see this card back. Also costs a lot of damage. It cannot even be summoned off Hulk, so consider that. LP can summon this, but LP has other options that it could summon too, like Striker Dragon and a lot of other options. So I think Destrudo is safe to come back. It's not. Uh, I didn't even see why it was banned in the first place. But yeah, this can come back, and it can give us back our Yazi Marimare combos, which were absolutely hilarious. Not most viable, but hilarious. Trickstar Light Stage. As much as I hate Trickstar, uh, and what it can do, Trickstar Light Stage can come to 3. Considering if you ban another card, the engine in its own doesn't do too much. It tries to hand loop you via Droll and Lockbird, which would be really good in this meta right now because Droll is mainable. But generally, the engine doesn't do much but recur itself. Does not have like strong pushes except for extra deck monsters. So bringing this to 3 will like increase Trickstar's playability to an existent amount. Draco Face Off. This card is a good extender for Pendulum as far as I get it. I was also not around when this card was run. But I think this card is fair. It sounds like you need to play 2 bricks for this. So this card can come back to 3. Sega's Light. Um, I will spoiler right now. Mystic Mine is not being addressed here. But Sekka's Light to 3. This enables so much cool deck building. It enables these monster mesh decks, which have, of course, like the you cannot use spells or traps, and a lot of decks run a lot of good spells and trap cards that are inherent to the engine. Like Infernoble could not really run this, or Dragon Link would also have kind of problems running this because you really need to see your field spells. Though you could use it as an extender technically if you want to. You can't really run this in Drytron or Virtual World because you need your spells and traps. So this card is like excellent for BA or some kind of random monster mesh deck, and even though it's Pot of Greed but better, the restriction is so strong that I would consider putting it to 3. And also, this is sort of an indirect buff to back row decks, quote unquote, because if these Sekka decks get played more, back row decks that floodgate you, specifically floodgate you, get better because they are specifically designed to deal with monster mesh decks. Sounds stupid, but it's how meta works. If one thing gets buffed, its counter gets buffed automatically. True King's return to 3. It's at 2. It did not do any difference. It can come to 3. Next for our semi-limits. Nessie to 2. The only danger I'm touching on this list. This card is the best danger for pure danger. And it's also a pretty good danger to discard. But generally, slowly bringing the dangers back and finding the correct amount of dangers to not make everybody play a danger engine in every deck while still, giving danger itself a little bit more power and letting those Grand Maju people play their danger Grand Maju decks. Bringing Nessie back is a good start. Then Salamangreat Gazelle. This card is, of course, the core part of the Salamangreat deck, but Salamangreat is like really hurting. It has a hard time playing through Nibiru, and like giving it a little bit more consistency, which is the merit of the deck, is probably a good idea. Also, this makes Desires way more playable in the deck. Dragonic Diagram. You probably can think what this means on this list, but also this card can come to 2. I would not put it to 3 yet. To see because Draco again is a hurting deck, and this is the best card of Draco. This card is better than Masterpiece in my opinion, even though Masterpiece is pretty up there, you know. But still, this card enables a lot of resources. It also makes Draco boards really annoying to break because you need to kill those Draco monsters to murder them, and it also gives you like consistency every turn, which is good. And also the 300 attack boost is a nice icing on the cake. Scarlet to 2. Eldritch is the best control deck, or like the best control engine. This is mainly because Eldritch has a way easier time dealing with back row removal than any other deck. And I'm going to address back row removal on this list because it is very, very sad for all the control decks. Not only Draco, not only Altergeist. Literally anything that decides to play multiple traps does not have an Eldritch engine. Those decks really hurt because of all the back row removal that is in the format. There's so much back row removal in the format that it basically makes some kind of decks unplayable unless you play certain engines, and Eldritch is one of these engines. Scarlet in particular, enables like a resource loop. You can open multiple lightning storms against Eldritch, but they still can enable engine just because this card is at 3. And putting this card at 2 makes back row removal more effective versus Eldritch, and therefore discouraging people from playing Eldritch. Trident to 2. Zodiac is already a good deck, but this is mostly because it is a Zeus deck, or a Zeus deck, how you want to pronounce it. Giving back Trident will give the deck a little bit more grind game, I think. There is no other thing needed to do for Zodiac. Maybe limiting Zeus is an option, but bringing back Trident will enable you to do a couple more plays and have more grind game past your Zeus attacks if they get stopped. Beatrice to 2. This card at 1 does as much as it does at 2 or 3. The only relevant deck for this to be more than 1 is BA itself. So generally, this is just a support to BA, and we saw that BA is like a roguish trap deck that gets shut down by Lightning Storm, or it is like this PK pile, or it is some kind of weird, abstruse combo deck. And bringing back Beatrice to 2 will definitely help the control variance. Also, to mention on the Unlimited, Devlorn to 3, he got an errata. Speaking about erratas, let's get to limited. Master Plan can come to 1 because Spiral may be an excellent controlled combo deck with also like good board breaking skills, but it's also a very bricky deck. Putting Master Plan to 1 rather than 2 or 3 will like you can play the Souls engine. It still is pretty good in the deck, the Souls engine. But like if you open Master Plan, it will hurt. It will hurt real good. And that is the most important thing, so that you have to think more when you play the Souls engine. Alternatively, if you want to not bring this back to 1, you could also bring back Spiral Resort to 3. But I think bringing this to 1 enables a cool deck. More cool combo decks are always fun. Speaking about fun, this is, I think, the most unsure thing I'm about to say, but Judgment could maybe come back for 1 format. And, like, to see if it's okay. See, the problem with Judgment is that it counts for every spell, not only spellbook cards, every spell. So it is, especially in spell-heavy decks, an easy way to get to Jowgen, which is a floodgate again. And it also pluses. It pluses significantly. Of course, it has counters, but counters are never a good argument to doing anything with a card. Also, like, then you can also counter this technically with Droll. Just wanting to say, you can't summon off this with Droll if you get Drolled after this card is activated. But generally, this card would give the Spellbook engine more power cards to search. And yeah, this is a big power card. And it would make like spellcaster control decks a little bit more viable. What I'm scared though about is this in combination with Crowley, the spell book link to, because it could technically search this. It has the 66% chance of searching this. If you didn't normal summon yet, it has a 100% chance of searching this. So that is kind of dangerous. And pendulum decks can really easily get to this. So Electromite is another concern. But I would risk it just to see how it would do. If it becomes a problem, ban it again. But this is a really interesting card. Brilliant Fusion to 1. Block Dragon is gone. That is my main argument. And Gem Knights themselves will not FTK anymore, or like unless they open completely busted. This generally makes also a good engine in other decks. Like what I could see happening is you could play this with a Golden Lord and then play some kind of combo Eldritch variant where if you activate this card, you can dump a Golden Lord and also another Gem Knight, summon Seraphinite, and then go for some kind of weird combo. Um, but having this at 1 is fine. It will be still searchable off of the Predaplants, but that is fine too. There is no FTK that is going to happen with this anytime soon, especially at 1, unless you make like a weird table 500 deck. This is the second most controversial card that I put on my list. Lightning Storm to 1. But man, we all hate those floodgate decks that everybody plays, the gurus, the dragoon stuff, etc., etc. So hear me out. A lot of backrow decks have the big issue that if they get hit by this or Harpy's Feather Duster or Red Reboot, that is 5 cards that they just they completely decease, except for Eldritch, and that's why I wanted to hit Sanguine to 2. This card is generally unfair when it comes to if you play a back row deck. It is so unfair that the meta of back row decks is basically shifted around if you can play around this card or stop this card from even happening. That's why Dragoon is so good, because Dragoon protects the Floodgate from this card. And this card generally like has no big skill ceiling. You just activate it. It's as skillful as Denko, but Denko is like you can't play it in every deck. But this card is generally nuts, and it's main deckable because it also is an out to some kind of other boards. It can out basically any link monster that doesn't have protection, and it can out also a lot of other stuff. And it's even an activate once per turn. So if you negate this, consider that he could activate another Lightning Storm. So just for you guys that say, but they have Judgment, if they have another Lightning Storm, they basically win the game. And limiting this should encourage decks that do not have an answer to this specific card to exist. There is enough back row removal for any combo deck, and combo decks are anyways better than any control deck. The only thing that control decks can do is like flip a floodgate and hope they don't have an out to that floodgate. It's not fun, but this card needs to be limited for a good reason. Quick launch. The rocket engine itself, not only the LP engine, but the rocket engine itself is pretty strong. And limiting quick launch should restrict access to free Synchro 8s or Link 2s, and a lot of resources. So generally, also this card is not once per turn. It should have been once per turn, and that's why I'm making it once per turn via the ban list. Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. Pendulum has been hurting a lot lately, as in it can't really compete with other decks, mainly because it doesn't have the search outlets that other decks have. Like all the decks recur from the graveyard, but Pendulum does not really have this graveyard recursion that other decks have. Like you can't like Drytron. Their stuff comes from the extra deck, and that is way less accessible. And giving back Electromite will give you like a consistency engine. It will also boost the metal foes from the latest sets, and it will also boost Pendulum and all the new archetypes that are centered around Pendulum. Specifically the Doremi code. I have not read those cards, by the way. This card can come to 1. It probably will not be a problem. Triff will be happy, but that's about it. Firewall Dragon is getting an errata. The question is when this ban list drops. If this drops a little later, then we probably will not see it unerrated, like we saw Makura the Destroyer for like a format for like 3 days. So maybe we can see like 3 days of fun firewall combos. But generally, this card can come back to 1 if in its eroded state. Striker Dragon to 1. This also it takes away some combo lines of Dragon Link, and also makes this a more valuable target for hand traps if you remove this. And that's basically the thought. It like removes the Striker Dragon LP plays, because Striker Dragon is like the enabler for 2-card engines and also the enabler for the LP plays. So yeah, limiting this may make it harder for Dragon Link to combo off. Mirage Stalio. The win condition of Salamangreat currently is access code talker, and this does not allow access code talker. So giving this back will like make more different ways how to play Salamangreat, and this is it will be fine. It will give Salamangreat a little bit more consistency, but the only merit of the deck is consistency while playing hand traps, and that's about it. And Zodiac can do the same thing. And also hand traps are not that good right now. Thunder Dragon Colossus to 1. A lot of people are saying like, oh no, but the Nemesis engine where you can like just cheese them out. First of all, you'll have to play the Nemesis engine. Second of all, you'll have to play a deck that banishes, and third of all, you have to play a deck that does not have like a specific restriction. Like you can't really summon this in Drytron. Or it is kind of hard to summon in other decks. And also you need to open the card. It's like you open a better version of Mistake. So just consider that. It's like as if you sided in Mistake, but with legs. And bringing this back enables Thunder Dragon as a pure deck to function. So I like more decks. And now for the ban cards. This is, again, an interesting topic. You may have noticed that Benton is not limited on my list. I did not limit Benton because I think it's the wrong move. It reduces the consistency only a little bit for Drytron, and hitting the consistency for Drytron is basically irrelevant. It's already a super duper consistent deck. I'd rather hit the power level of the deck. And banning Eva reduces the amount of negates you can get from Herald of Ultimateness by 2. And also it will put Safeguard on the card Diviner of the Heralds, which will hopefully release soon. And because this card can search Diviner of the Heralds, and it becomes absolutely disgusting when you get to play Diviner of the Heralds. And generally, so this card is just Value Town. It's a +2. If you or like it's a +1 if you discard it in on the end of your combo. And it even feels good if you like discard this on your opponent's first turn for an orange light, just to get like another orange light. And if you have another fairy, you basically have 2 gamma type effects. Of course, that is not very consistent. So hitting Eva will like make it less disgusting to play against the Drytron deck, and it will also make like Dark Ruler no more and Droplets a lot better against the deck. While if you hit Benton, the only thing that happens is like Natasha does. They just take out Natasha. That's about it, and then they just OTK you in another way. Like they could play the megaliths just to recur the fairies more. Called by the Grave banned. Uh, so before you call me crazy, hear me out. This card has no good. Uh, it generally the only thing this card supports is combo decks winning even harder. If you open this plus full combo in, let's say, Dragon Link or in Drytron, and your opponent opens like one hand trap or two hand traps, this card basically says, okay, you just hand looped yourself. Congratulations, I won the duel. This card even says, like, I'm another negation if he didn't have a hand trap. So just consider it. This card is completely stupid because it enables if you open this in a combo deck, every time I open this when I play Drytron, literally every time, you feel like you just won the duel. That's how good Called by the Grave is. It even like disables a couple of graveyard strategies, like small like decks that are slower but play with the graveyard and like float around. This card shuts them down too. And this card shuts down your least favorite hand trap. You can like hold this card until like a hand trap is dropped that or like if you fear for a certain hand trap, this card will just save you. And if you did not have the hand trap, you're good anyways. It's like a mandatory staple in every deck right now that has to worry about hand traps. And that's why I think this card should be banned. Uh, the Crossout Designator is a way worse card than this. Even though it can hit more hand traps, it's like you have to play the hand traps yourself, and that is bad for deck building. This card can just be splashed, and then you feel good. And you don't even need to, and it can negate more cards if it's set. So just consider that. Instead of hitting Dragoon, we're hitting Red Eyes Fusion. This is mainly, again, a hit to the engines that can play around the back row removal for the back row decks. So it's like a payoff for putting Lightning Storm to 1. And also, this card is the real culprit when it comes to summoning Dragoon. Uh, People that say Verte is the problem card, they have not played a single game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Lately. And this is the problem card. It can be searched off of 6 different ways in your turn, and technically you can also search this with Nadir Disciple, Nadir Servant, by sending the Predaplant. I can look it up quickly. You can search it by sending Chimera or Ecclesium. And that just enables more Dragoons, so you can basically just play a full Dragoon deck. If you hit this, Dragoon is still summonable. You could technically play this with Eye of Timaeus in like your tier 50 Dark Magician deck. But yeah, it's gonna be fine. And yeah, if this card is gone, you will not have to deal against Dragoon. Banned extra deck cards. True King of all calamities, the most obvious hit. This has to be also hit to bring back Dragonic Diagram to 2, and maybe later to 3, because Dragonic Diagram is also pretty degenerate in Dinosaur, and can enable this pretty easily. Yeah, this card is basically an auto win going first or second, and it should not be a thing. Its effect is basically search Exodia if you play against a monster deck. If you play against Eldritch, well, boohoo. Sad times, but everything else, activate the effect and win the game. Union Carrier, another Drytron hit, and specifically Drytron hit. First of all, this card is not future-proof at all. And if you hit this, this will reduce the grind game of Drytron a little bit. it removes a couple of plays. This card basically makes half the Drytron deck better. Like it makes the other Drytrons better, rather than Alpha and Zeta. It makes Gamma so much more consistent. If you don't get to Gamma via Union Carrier, it's pretty hard to play Drytron. And then Guard Dragon LP. I am unsure if this needs to be hit if you already hit Quick Launch and Striker Dragon. But if you really, really want to stop people from playing Dragon Link finally, then hitting this is a good option. But consider that they may not even do this because of the other dragons that are coming out, like the Dragoonity and what already came out, the Armed Dragon Thunder. So yeah, not hitting this may also be an option if Striker Dragon and our Quick Launch are getting hit. So that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed my very detailed explanation on what could be unbanned. This list is probably not going to be accurate at all. It's more of like a wish list with theory crafting behind it. And yeah. Anyways, I wish you guys a good day and see ya.